Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Wellness and Motherhood, where I talk about all things pertaining to health, fitness, being a wife, being a mom, being a believer in Jesus, raising our kids, and eventually homesteading. In this video, I will be discussing why we decided to homeschool our children, as well as how it's going so far. I am grateful for YouTube to be able to educate us on why different families homeschool as well as how they homeschool. Because when I grew up, I didn't know anyone that was homeschooled. I had one cousin who I wasn't very close to who was homeschooled for high school. But aside from that, I didn't really know anything about the homeschool life. And I had a lot of misconceptions regarding what it meant to be a homeschooling family. Growing up in public school and with a family who didn't really know much about homeschooling either, I always heard things like, oh, homeschool kids are weird. They're not, well socialized. They're not well adapted to, different environments and different circumstances around them because they pretty much, they spend a lot of their time at home. And so homeschooling was just never something that I thought of for my kids. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, who is my oldest, she's 4. When I was still pregnant with her, I was looking up different. I didn't plan on putting her into any type of daycare or school until she was at least 2, but I was just kind of curious, like what that process would be like. So I was looking up different daycares and preschools and Montessori schools, and they are all so expensive. And then I even looked into like a few public schools in the area for when she was. I was way ahead of the way ahead of the game. I was so pregnant thinking about kindergarten, but anyway. The schools around where I live are not the best. And so I was curious what would be the process for enrolling her in a school in a different school district. And, they would have to get on the wait list and, it was all these things. And then I was looking into private schools. I was looking into $30,000 a year private schools. I don't know who's going to pay. I don't know. I don't have that kind of money. I was very hopeful that maybe one day I would, but as of right now, she's 4, and I do not have the money to put her in a $30,000 a year private school. But those are some really nice schools that I was looking at. Anyway, the plan was always to put her in school. In the midst of all this, my husband was very interested in wanting to homestead. And he started looking at, okay, how can we grow our own food? We eat a lot of organic food, which is very expensive. And he's like, why don't we grow our own food? And I was like, I never thought of that. That's actually a good idea. And so we always said that our next house, we would have, more land to be able to grow our own food. And then as I started looking into, homesteading, a lot of the homestead families also homeschooled. And I was like, I wonder why all these people are homeschooling. And that led me down a rabbit hole of looking into all the benefits of homeschooling. I have been home with my kids since they were born. I had plans to maybe put my oldest in daycare when she turned 2. But as the time went on and we got closer and closer to that age, I just couldn't see myself leaving her with a stranger, especially for the extended amount of hours that she would have had to been gone for. I was working 12 hours a week, 12 hours a day, 3 days a week. So that's 36 hours a week that she would have been away from me. And it just didn't feel right to me. So I just never did it. And then as I started to look more into homeschooling, I really started to see a lot of the benefits of homeschooling. One of those benefits is more time with them when they're younger. So life already goes by pretty quickly. And like I said, I just didn't want to miss out on, experiences and just time with them, bonding. I feel like every second counts. I mean, and I don't want to be dramatic and make it seem like I never ever leave my kids, but like I said, I just think 36 to 40 hours a week for me personally was just too much. And now that I've started homeschooling and I started teaching her, I really just enjoy seeing her facial reactions when she figures out a problem. Like I have family members and friends whose kids are in school and they get videos and pictures of these exciting moments. And that's nice. And it's especially nice for people who don't have the privilege of being able to homeschool. But I just wouldn't want to see large parts of my child's development through a picture or video. Like I really enjoy just experiencing each moment with them. I also feel like by homeschooling them, I get to have a greater influence over their development and I get to really instill our values into them and shape the desired character traits that I want for my kids. Um, the Bible says, train up a child in the ways they should go. And training is not just something that should happen on evenings and weekends, as it, as it would if they were in traditional school. It should happen all day, every day, over the next 18 years. And I just feel like if they're gone from me for 8 hours out of the day, like that's just 8 hours every single day that I don't have with them to really train them in the ways that they should go. And I was actually thinking about this earlier today, and I'm just, I try to remind myself of why I want to homeschool them. And I feel like there is just a evil world out there. Not saying everybody is evil. There are plenty of good people. I really do believe that there are more good people than bad in the world, but there is a lot of evil in the world. And I feel like there's a lot of spiritual warfare going on. And when I see them and I just see them in their vulnerability, like I really just want to train them up well so that they can just face the world and face adulthood with confidence, with courage, with the word of God embedded in their heart. I want them to be kind. I want them to be wise. I want them to have discernment. And I just feel like it's my job, it's my main responsibility to instill that in them at this very early age. And I just don't think evenings and weekends is going to give me enough time to really shape them in the ways I want them to go, in the way that God's word says they should be shaped. And again, this is no shame to people who do put their kids in school, because it may just be a personal choice or it may be your only option. But for me personally, like I said, I feel like I just really value that time that I have with them to really to hold on to them while I have them while they're young, before I have to release them out into the world. And I can just really help them problem solve, and just put the word of God so deep into their heart, put the truth so deep into their heart, so that when they're faced with a lie, they already know how to reject it. The third thing that I appreciate about homeschooling is flexible and customized curriculum. So growing up in public school, there were so many subjects that I just was not interested in. And I do think that, there may be some things that they may have to learn that they may not, particularly want to learn. But I feel like with homeschooling, there is more of an opportunity to customize that learning. Like I saw someone who homeschools their kid, and for science, that particular quarter or semester, whatever you want to call it, she asked him if he wanted to study the human body or gardening. And I just never had that opportunity, especially in like elementary and middle school. High school, they give you a little bit more options, but in those earlier years, it's just like, this is a curriculum, this is what we're reading, here it is. And I feel like there is just so much information in the world, like to where it's impossible to learn it all within the 18, 12 years, however long your kids are in grade school. And so I feel like, why not just let them kind of lead more of their education to study the things that they're interested in? Like there's plenty of time for them to learn, other topics, like if it comes up. Like, I don't necessarily care if they study calculus, or algebra, maybe basic algebra, but I don't know. There's just so many like this history is so extensive. And so just studying the basic history that they want you to study in school, compared to them being able to study like if they want to go study Japanese history, because that's what interests them, or Australian history. I would love for them if they want to dive deep into that, like, and that's what they're interested in. I want to give them that opportunity to do that. Um, Also, a benefit I see with homeschooling is they can really, and it goes in alignment with customized curriculum, is they get to really pursue their own interests. And they don't have to necessarily rush, through subjects in the name of, just going along with the school system wants you to do. Like, and a good example is my husband. He said in high school, he had a ceramics class for like his art elective. And his school made him switch electives every quarter. And I get it. They want you to be exposed to different things. But if, he really liked ceramics and he really wanted to take the class again, but he wasn't able to, they made him pick a different elective. And I wouldn't necessarily do that with my kids in homeschool. Like if they really liked one particular extracurricular activity, like I may let them dabble in some other things just for that added exposure, but I would let them, study a particular subject for as long as they're interested in doing so. And I just really appreciate that freedom to be able to do that. A fourth thing that I really appreciate about homeschool is that I feel like it doesn't waste their time, especially as they get older. I feel like in today's day and age, school is like a glorified babysitter. Like my daughter is 4. I don't think she needs to be in school for 8 hours out of the day. I love that she gets to wake up when she wants to. I don't have to wake her up and rush her out the door to get her ready for school. They get home cooked, meals every single morning for breakfast. We like omelets, bacon, soft pancakes, whatever. I grew up eating cereal every morning simply because that was just quick and easy before I had to be out and be ready for school. They get to take a nap in their own bed, not just out in the open with other kids. And again, this is no shame to people who do put their kids in school. I have to keep saying that, but I feel like these are, I'm going over the benefits, and I do value that she gets to take. I keep saying she because she's my oldest, and anyway, I have 2 kids, but I really appreciate that they both get to just nap in their own beds. They don't have to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. They don't have to be forced to sit in a circle or sit in a chair because, you don't want them distracting other kids. Like, I mean, they do distract each other sometimes, but I mean, it's fine. Like, it's just 2 of them. So I feel like I had the time to, if they do get a little bit distracted, it's not like we have to hurry up and get this done. And because we have all these kids to give attention to, like, I just feel like it's just more freedom. And then as they get older, like I said, I don't think that a kid needs 8 hours out of the day to learn the things that they need to learn. So I see plenty of homeschool kids who pretty much get their schoolwork done in 2 to 4 hours, and then they have the rest of the day to do what they really want to do. And I see so many homeschool kids that are, entrepreneurs, and I love that. I just think it's amazing to be able to start building your financial future at an earlier age, not waiting until you're 18 to quote unquote get your life started and get your finances together. Like, there are kids who own businesses at 10, 11 years old, and they're making money. You can invest that money, you can put it into a retirement account, and I just think it's just really amazing. The fifth thing I appreciate about homeschooling, and I already spoke to this a little bit, but it's comfort in your own home. So this isn't just comfort for the kids. This is also my comfort. I don't have to necessarily get up and rush out the door and take them to school, drive in traffic or doing, I get it's so nice. Like, just, waking up, drinking my tea, reading my Bible, journaling, slow mornings. If the kids wake up early, before I'm finished my little me time. Sometimes they're on 1,000 when they wake up and I can't finish reading. But sometimes they're calm. They just sit on my lap while I read my Bible, or they'll color. Like, especially if my oldest wakes up, like, she can just sit there and color for a nice little minute before she starts getting a little bit rowdy. The little one is more like, let's go get ready for the day. Mommy, let's go get ready for the day. But sometimes he'll sit and he'll color, or he'll snuggle with me. And I just really appreciate those moments. Like, it just feels really nice. And especially when you just see the hustle and bustle of the world, knowing that I have a husband that supports me financially so that I can stay home, with the kids and enjoy these sweet, tender moments with them that our kids also appreciate. It's just really nice. It's a really beautiful experience, and I am just, so grateful to have the support that I have to be able to do this. And don't get me wrong, it is definitely tough. It's a sacrifice. I hear so many people say, oh, I could never homeschool. We can't live off one income. And I would argue that you probably could. You would just have to give up some of your current luxuries to do so. And I feel like it's a trade-off. Like, for me, going to work, essentially I go to work, and I mean, yes, you can save and invest, and those things are very important. And we do plan to continue building our financial wealth and security. But I feel like a lot of that extra income is just for spending. And it's like, would I rather have these slow mornings with my kids, or, new clothes all the time, or being able to go out to restaurants as, often as I want? Like, those things are nice, but if you're trading them for, special intimate moments with your kids, I just enjoy the time with my kids more than I enjoy what I could buy with the money if I was going to work. So like I said, I would argue that I think a lot more people, especially if you're married, if you have like 2 incomes, I think it is probably more possible than you think to survive on that one income. Like I said, it may take some time, some saving, some strategic planning, and some downsizing, but I think could be possible for you and your family if that is something that you desire to do. The sixth thing that I really appreciate about homeschooling is more time to teach the kids about God. So I'm not just trying to teach them, in evenings and weekends, but I am living life with my kids. That, like, just saying that, it just, I'm living life with them on a day to day. I'm not just sending them out into the world, and then trying to teach them when they get home. I'm living with them through this. So I'm watching my kids interact together. I'm helping them problem solve. I'm helping them through conflict. I'm helping them learn to share, learn to be considerate. I'm teaching them what the fruits of the spirit are, and trying my best to embody those fruits of the spirit. When I see them embody, I'm pointing it out, like, that was very kind of you. You were very kind to your brother. You were very patient with your sister. Or, that is very loving of you. Like, I'm just letting them know, like, this is what this is, and this is what it means, and this is how you model it in the world. Me and my daughter talked about hospitality today. We were reading about the story of Abraham, when Abraham had the three visitors come to him, and he had his wife make pancakes and some other things, and we're like, that this is hospitality. This is how you treat guests when they come into our home. And it's just amazing to be able to have these conversations with them without, limiting it as much as I would if they were in school. The seventh thing that I appreciate about homeschooling is more time for fun, adventure, and field trips. It is, we get a little overstimulated going to like kid places on Saturdays and Sundays. I just feel like it's not as fun. We went to Hyper Kids, that's an indoor playground near us, on a Saturday, and it's busy, it's loud, it's commotion. There's just kids everywhere running every which way, like, and it just feels chaotic. Like, oh, just thinking about it just feels very chaotic in comparison to when we go on like a Wednesday, and it's like, no, we're not the only ones there. There are other kids, but it's just much slower, more calm. We can really take our time on the slides. It just feels calmer. I don't know. Maybe some people like the hustle and bustle and the busyness and the chaos. It's too much for me. And so just being able to go to the zoo on a weekday, and we're not like, it's not crowded and squeezing through thousands of people. I don't know. It's just really nice. We take trains during the week, and we go to the zoo, we go to the science center, we go to libraries, we go to parks, and it just, I don't know, it feels nice not having to just only do those things on evenings and weekends when everybody else and their kids are also doing those things. And once we get our finances in a way I want them, like right now we are still financially struggling a little bit because we're just adjusting to one income, and anywho, that's a whole nother story. But ultimately, when money is better and we can take more vacations than we currently do, I think it would be nice to not be restricted to when the kids aren't in school. So pretty much breaks in summertime, and winter break. Like, we can pretty much take a vacation whenever we want. Like, we can do homeschool while we're on vacation. Like, we can go study, Spanish history in Spain or something. Like, I just feel like that's really nice. Like, study, Egyptian history and actually take them, to Egypt, or to, just to other countries to experience other cultures and not be bound by the time frame, of the school year. The eighth thing that I appreciate is more time to practice life skills like cooking and cleaning. Like my kids, like Aubrey is 4 and Aiden is 2, and they like, Aubrey cracks eggs. She can go get the eggs out the refrigerator. She gets her step. They whip that step all around the kitchen to get whatever they need. Like, she can go get the eggs, get the bowl. She knows how to crack them, salt, pepper. They both know how to turn the stove on. She knows where the pans are. She can make herself eggs. She can make herself toast. They both, they like cleaning. They help me with the dishes. They help me with the laundry. They sweep the floor, and they do all these things willingly. I was actually thinking, like, I wonder how much of that is like, suppressed, like when parents are in a hurry and the kids want to help and they're like, no, I got it, or not this time, maybe next time. Like, I wonder how much of that turns the kids off to those particular tasks, to where they get older, they just don't even have a desire. Like, I don't know. Hopefully she continues to want to clean as she gets older and do dishes. That would be nice. But we'll see how that goes. But right now, she loves like helping me with the dishes and the cooking and the cleaning. Real life skills. They go grocery shopping with me. She can't fully read the ingredients, but she looks at the back of the boxes in the grocery store. Like, I feel like they're just aware. They're aware about money. They help me pay. And not saying that kids who are in school don't do these things. I just feel like I have more opportunity with them because I'm with them more during the day than if they were at school. Now, this ninth thing that I'm going to speak to, I haven't experienced this for myself. This is just something that I've heard by listening to other homeschool families, but improved socialization. So I am not the best at socializing my kids yet. We do, like I said, do go to parks and story time at the library and things like that, but they don't really have any friendships yet. They don't have any kids that they see on a regular basis to say, hey, that's such and such, like, or that's my friend. This is somebody who I spend time with on a regular basis. Like, they don't really have that yet. But a lot of the families that I see that are homeschooling say their kids are more socialized, they think, in comparison to, kids who aren't in school. And they say that's because of the mixed ages. Like they get to do co-op, and a lot of the co-ops are, kids of a varied age group versus in traditional school. You're pretty much in a classroom with other kids your age. And so, like, this one woman I know, she said her kid can pretty much talk to an older person for hours. They can talk to a younger person for hours, and they feel like it's because they have more experience being in environments with a more diverse age group of people in comparison to like the classroom, like I said, where everybody's the same age, and then you just have maybe like the one or two teachers. I personally, growing up in public school, didn't socialize a lot with people in the higher or lower grades. I mean, of course, there was a handful, but for the most part, I only socialized with people who were also my age. And the closest I have with this is, my son who is 2 and my daughter who is 4, and just watching their dynamic. Like, she teaches him, she cares for him, and he looks up to her. Like, he can look to her for help. He doesn't always have to come to me or daddy. He can say, Aubrey, can you help me open this? Can you help me cut this paper? Earlier today he's like, can you help me roll this up? And it's just, I don't know, they have that I guess age diversity between the two of them, and we do want more kids. So I think there will be more age diversity where there is, help from the, looking to your older sibling for like help and support, and then from the older kid being able to like teach and learn and develop that way. And then they also have their parents who they can look up to for help and support and guidance and to teach them. So yeah, I just think it's a cool, mixed age dynamic, even with us just being in the house in comparison to them being at school. The 10th thing that I really appreciate about homeschool is entrepreneurship. I spoke to this a little bit before, but not a lot, but I've seen a decent amount of kids who are homeschool who also start their own businesses. And I just think that's so amazing for kids to be able to make their own money, while they're in school. I thought about doing like a little bakery with my daughter and, selling like baked goods at a farmer's market. And I feel like, she can make a couple of dollars, teach her about money. She can start investing her money, learn to save. She can learn marketing skills. She can learn, baking. She's learning fractions, when you're, 1 cup, 1.5 cups of blah, blah, blah. Like, I just think it would be a really cool, real life experience to be able to teach her. And then also for her to gain practical working skills, and then like the benefit of any potential revenue that she may get from that. I think that's really cool. The 11th thing, I feel like this is a lot, but the 11th thing is more time outside. And I feel like in traditional school that kids maybe get between 20 to 45 minutes, some schools maybe an hour of recess. I feel like my kids, they can get significantly more time than that. We can go on a hike for 4 hours. We'll do our homeschool in the morning, and then we can go somewhere in the afternoon and be outside for 4 hours. We can go to the park for hours. We can like go eat outside at a restaurant. And I feel like they're just getting more time outside. And I'm really excited for when we get to move to our land. I don't know if you've been following any of my videos, but we did purchase 3 acres of land in Virginia, and we want to start homesteading and gardening and growing our own food. And I feel like they will get tons of time in the sun in comparison to kids who are pretty much in a building for large parts of the day. The 12th thing I appreciate about homeschool, I spoke to this a little bit earlier too, but it's less chaotic, more restful. just less hustle and bustle. When my husband gets home, I feel like it's also a little bit more restful for him, because if we were both working and the kids were in school, we're all getting home at the same time. We're all trying to rush and get dinner started. But my husband can pretty much come home and relax because dinner's already done. He's probably gonna laugh at this if he hears it, because he probably really relaxes. He does help out at home and helps with the dishes, and the kids are always bouncing off the walls. But in theory, the house will be clean and dinner will be done, and he can come home and relax with the kids. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But all in all, I think homeschooling is less chaotic and more restful for everyone in my household. I feel like that was a lot, but there are a lot of things that I enjoy about homeschooling, or a lot of benefits I see to homeschooling. In summary, those things are more time to spend with the kids when they're younger, greater influence over them to really get to instill values and shape desired character traits, flexible and customized curriculum. It doesn't waste their time, the comfort of being in your own home, more time to teach them about God, more free time in the sun, more time for field trips and adventure, more time to practice life skills, better socialization, entrepreneurship at a younger age, more time outside, and less chaotic and more restful days, all in all. So how is it going so far? Homeschooling is going, I was gonna say great. It's going great. It's going pretty good. I like it. I like it a lot. I love watching them not know something. And then it can be a little frustrating in the beginning, especially when it's something simple, but they're only, 2, 3, 4. And they start out and they don't really know, and then it just takes a couple of days, and then they just start getting better and better, and then they start understanding, and then they start asking questions, and it's an amazing feeling to be able to witness that transition. I pause because I'm thinking of like there's different pros and cons. Like those are definitely some of the pros, like watching them grow and develop and being able to witness it firsthand versus getting pictures from from their teacher, or calls or report cards, or saying their homework. Like when you're there with them throughout the day and you're the one helping them through this process, it is a really beautiful experience. Like I said, the cons can be it can cause a little bit of frustration with both of you, you and your kid. So it's important to take breaks, especially if you see things are getting a little intense. Take a break and go play. And that's one of the beauties of homeschool. You don't have to just sit there and get through it. You're not trying to get something done by the end of the school day, or by the end of a certain class period. Like okay, we don't get it done today, we'll just finish it tomorrow. Another one of the challenges I've had is just the consistency. I'm pretty consistent, but it's not. My husband keeps telling me, you don't have to do public school at home. Like, it's okay if you want to take a break or take a day off. But I personally feel bad when I do that. Like, I feel like we should be doing this Monday through Friday for the times that I said. And there's nothing wrong with consistency. But, if sometimes you just wake up and the kids are having an off day, you're having an off day, and for me personally, like there are some days where we skip homeschool days, and I just feel really guilty because I don't want them to be behind. I don't want to take advantage of the fact that we're at home. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing homeschool today. So we can just, go to the playground, or we can just I'll just catch up on some laundry, which is what I do sometimes. And I feel really guilty about that. So I would say it's a blessing that I get to do that because I'm homeschooling, but it can also be a challenge with making sure that, you're not putting your kids at a disadvantage because you're just skipping too many days of, optimal learning time. But like I said, my husband says like they learned something today. Like you guys cook together. They know how to crack eggs by themselves. It's okay if you just spend all day at the playground. Like they're kids. They can play for a whole day. They don't have to sit down and do circle time and book work every single day of the week, which I agree and disagree with at the same time. I don't know. That's for another video. But all in all, I love homeschooling, and I'm just so excited. I have so many ideas on projects and different things that we can do as they get older, and I don't have to necessarily wait until they get out of school or wait till a weekend to do all these fun things that I have planned. Um, to do with my kids. So I will definitely keep you guys posted on all the things that we are planning and what a day in the life of our homeschool looks like. And I thank you for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next